Hi, my name is Robert Pisani, and I am with Marta Obiols Fornell and Father Mark Montebello. And we will be discussing Marta's book, Easeful Death, which Father Mark translated. Do you want to talk to us about yourself first, before we start, Marta?
Okay, I come from Barcelona. I studied philosophy in Spain and I finished in Germany. Then I studied religious sciences, and then I did a research certificate within a doctoral program called Nihilism, about Nietzsche. And normally every summer I used to go to Germany, but one summer I decided to come to Malta to learn some English. I didn't succeed very well. And that summer I met my partner, Thomas, from Sweden, and we decided to move to Malta.
Okay. And Father Mark, do you want to talk a bit about yourself?
Yeah. She didn't learn much English, but a lot of other things.
Oh, yes, included you.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the text was in Spanish, with a little bit of Catalonian twist. It was fun translating it.
Okay. So Easeful Death, as I understood it, is, I would say, a series of philosophical investigations. There is a girl named Amanda who's torn between two worlds. One is with her affair with a professor, and the other one is her family life. And this leads her to some indecision. Marta, do you want to talk about the book?
Well, why not? I can try. I would say that this book, if you ask me what it's about, I would say it's about a young woman struggling for meaning and then fighting her family values, her religion values, the average society values. And in the meantime, she falls in love with her professor, and she's obsessed with death. That will be a little bit the line of the book. And then if you ask me what is behind, which is the background here, which philosophy, I would say nihilism. And I will try to explain a little bit why. If we consider that the Christian God as a source of absolute moral principles is death, it pops up nihilism. And I will explain why. Because we realize that there's no finality in our actions, which means that there's no ultimate meaning. And we discover also that there's not a unity or a totality or a structure in which we are involved, and there's no truth or the truth. And that leaves us pretty naked. And then, calling Nietzsche, he explains that there are different types of reactions. For example, he calls about pessimistic nihilism, optimistic, theoretical, practical, etc. But the point is that all this nihilism can be summarized into two: the nihilism of the weakness and the nihilism of the strength. The nihilism of the weakness is the one who leads to the last man. And I will explain why I'm saying all this. Because the last man is what Amanda represents. Amanda represents someone that is incapable of living with the idea of God, but is incapable of living of the idea of no God. She is what Nietzsche called dyspeptic. She cannot make digestion. And the other type of nihilism, the nihilism of the strength, is the one that Nietzsche points out that it leads to the Superman, together with the thoughts of the eternal return, etc. And that maybe will be more Martin in the book. But obviously, everyone is free to interpret it as they wish.
Okay, there's also another character, though, Father Michael. What would his role be in the book? See, it's a sort of triangle of sorts, which emphasizes the situation Amanda, the main protagonist, is in. So, and then Father Martin, well, it could be a spoiler, he does die. So what does this represent?
Well, first of all, represents that Amanda cannot take authorities. And a professor means an authority. A priest means an authority. And then Amanda says, but what is this? Let's try to get close to this person. And then when she gets close to this person, she realized that he's a human being, that he's wearing a mask, not for COVID-19. She's wearing a permanent mask. And then she wants to take away this mask and see the person, which is weak, but it's also a very strong person. So Amanda is attracted to persons with a strong will that seems to go beyond good and bad. But at the same time, they are honest to themselves, and they can say, I fail, or I cry, or I did this mistake, or I don't understand this. What she cannot take is absolutes.
Okay. And, okay, I always believe that no matter what someone writes, there's always a piece of them in a book. At least that's something I believe. So what made you want to write this book? Do you think was this an expression of some views you've had at this time, at the time of writing? Was there a particular situation that made you say, yes, okay, I'm like this character, I am Amanda, let me write about it?
I have to say that for me, it's strange because I don't write books. But this just happened, and that's why I call it like a mushroom, something that grows wild in the middle of the forest, in this case, in the middle of Gozo. And it just happened. What I do is I write in my diary. This is a normal practice to try to digest, using the same metaphor, the reality. And when I don't manage, I vomit, and this is my diary. But sometimes you obtain a product, and this is this book. And following again a quote of Nietzsche, when Nietzsche was rejected by Lou Andrea Salomé, at some point he wrote, I hope I can transform this shit into gold. And this, I guess, what I try to do, to transform these angst into a product. But it was nothing planned, or I would say it just happened.
Okay, I was going to say, okay, as you said, the writing just happened, but was there a structure? I mean, did you say, okay, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and then this is going to happen? Or was it, I don't know, you're culminated from your lectures and the philosophies that you've encountered?
What happened is that my partner, Thomas, he went to Sweden for 1 week, and when he came back, the book was ready. So that was done in 5 days. And it was done because I guess I was boiling, I didn't know what to do, and it came out this. But you are right, I mean, it has a lot of personal things in the book. Personal questions like, what are we doing here? What is this? Why are we alive? Why we have to die? How can you accept this? How you can go on with your life? These questions is an obsession, and in that sense, I feel very much attached with Amanda.
Okay, good. There's a quote, and I think it summarized the book very well. It's on page 19. Okay, so they hung up abruptly. Such occurrences were quite regular. Our girl was constantly torn between a compassion that she considered false and a freedom that she still had to gain. Would you say this summarizes the book in a way?
No, I don't think it summarizes the book. It summarizes that scene. This is a family scene, not the book.
Okay, if you want to elaborate on that.
Well, on the book, I would say that, as Marta was said, that it just happened. The writing just happened. Even the book just happened. We were talking one day. She said, "I've got something. I wrote something." I said, "Would you mind if I read it?" And she gave it to me, and I read the Spanish text, and I liked it very much. I don't think Nietzsche is. She mentioned Nietzsche a few times now. I don't think he's mentioned once in the book.
It is mentioned, yes.
He's
maybe
mentioned?
2-3 times.
Okay,
yes.
but it's all Nietzsche, I think. There's echoes of Nietzsche, and I liked it very much. Of course, echoes of Marta too. then I said, why don't we share it, or you share it with friends in Gozo, but they only they don't read Spanish, and so I said, do you want that I translate it? And yeah, a little bit in the evening, night, I just relax and translate this, and that's how the text came. Then someone came up with maybe sending it to a publisher. We'll see. She wasn't convinced that anyone would accept it, and the first did. Horizons did, and they liked it very much. And she came to Malta, and we discussed it, and the book was. But I think you asked what is this book? Nihilism, she's saying. Well, what impressed me is that it is about our falsities. Today, masks are something everyone wears, of course, because of the COVID. But the masks we continue, the fabrications we continue to make. But that's not the problem. As I said in my introduction, there's an introduction by me there. It is not the fact that we fabricate something, that we elude ourselves with something. The amazing thing is that we believe it. That is the amazing thing. That is, I dress as as a priest, if you'd like, but then I believe that I am a priest. And that is what impresses me, what Marta brings out here. A lot of instances with the priest, with Martin, the professor, and the family, and Opus Dei, and a lot of other things. Marta is asking, where does the fiction end? And where does reality begin? Now, having Nietzsche as a guide, the line would be nowhere in the middle. Nowhere in a space that is comfortable. No, not at all. But this is not our lives. We continue to, no?
But the problem is not only this mask you are mentioning. The problem is also the very big mask is that we are born and we are going to die. And this is a very big mystery. Amanda cannot take it.
But then we build realities.
We close doors.
Yes, and we believe the props. We put up props just not to see this.
Not to confront this mystery.
We don't want to confront it, but then we believe them. That is the amazing thing. That's why I begin my introduction with someone who was in denial at the point of death. We actually believe our own lies, but not artificially. We really do believe them, considering them to be the truth. And Nietzsche, the great enemy of this, found this disciple here.
Hence, is this the easeful death? Our life is one big illusion then, this is what I'm understanding. Is this the easeful death, or what does the title have in relevance with this?
Actually,
or should I read the Spanish? Is there the Spanish?
Is there a Spanish?
Is there the Spanish title in there, or was it?
no, Spanish would be Plácida Muerte.
Okay.
No.
I was wondering.
Actually, this I wanted to call it just death. Dry and simple.
She wanted to call it dead. That was the title at the beginning. But this Ode to a Nightingale of Keats, or I know most of this poem by heart from my boyhood. I studied Keats for my O-level, and I loved Keats, especially this Ode to a Nightingale, and this paragraph where he says that he was hard in love with easeful death, calling it soft names in many a mused rhyme. And I didn't know it's so popular on the internet because later, a few weeks ago, I Googled it to see whether anyone knows this. Oh, there are millions of quoting the same easeful death. I said, I'm not the only one who likes it. Then I suggested to Marta, and she liked the poem. It's a beautiful poem. And I think Nietzsche, without knowing, Keats, without knowing Nietzsche, is somewhere there.
Yeah.
But I like what you mentioned in the foreword, because you say being half in love with easeful death is being half in love or more with life. And I agree with that, because that's why it plays with easeful death, because when we are more aware that we are going to die, it's like life can become more intense at the same time. So it matches this death and life.
Yes, and it's a bit like, what Jesus says. If anyone wants to live, he has to die.
Yes.
And Marta maybe here is saying, I believe that Nietzsche is a great Christian, by the way. I don't know if Marta agrees with me, but I believe Nietzsche is a great Christian, a great mystic.
Okay. Mystic,
Not
yes.
only, Jesus says, whoever wants to live must die, but I would say that whoever lives must have died, or if someone actually wants to find life, there's no other way but to die. Not only, not necessarily physically, but mystically or in some way.
But Nietzsche will turn it a little bit and will say, whoever wants to live have to be prepared to live this interview and every single detail of your life. You have to be capable of getting into your system that it will be repeated endless. So this eternal return, like experiment, say not that you have to die, that you have to live again and again and again. Can you take this? And many people will say, I cannot take this. To repeat this again, it's over. So I don't think... I think in another direction, and then this that Nietzsche was Christian or not, I don't know. I don't want to go there. But what I like about Nietzsche is that he says that there's no guilt, and then there's no need of redemption. It's only the innocence of becoming, and that I like. It's very, it frees myself
Yes, but this
a
is
lot.
very close to the mystics, the Catholic mystics, huh? not the Buddhists or whatever, Catholic mystics. And this is the nice synergy we have here, because we don't agree almost on anything, and maybe someone would say, how can a priest translate such a book, which is so unchristian? Maybe they would think. And having a priest in the book who's not exactly exemplary, anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to go into that. In fact,
yes, I do. I may not agree with a lot of things, though I do in the long run, because I think that what is being said here, even nihilism, in the long run, would not run parallel lines with Catholic mysticism. They will meet. They do meet. If one reads Eckhart or Tauler, he sees that they're very close to what Nietzsche is saying in an inverse way. He is not, and of course, Nietzsche speaks a lot about Christ, about God, and in Ecce Homo, in Beyond Good and Evil.
Of course.
And I find them very close to...
I find it close too, because, for example, in the book, it's mentioned this Angelus Silesius, these little sentences like, the rose is without why. It blooms because it blooms. The reality, of course, it matches perfectly, because things are because they are, and we leave it here. That's why I criticize a lot this Christianity. In the book, I put extreme Opus Dei, because it's like trying to find a war for your life, or you don't want to be good just because you want to be good. You want to be good because after this you will have this and that. And the mystics say, no, the rose is on every So that I love it, and I see the connection in these two.
But even what I liked in this text as you see, it's a very small book.
Yes, it is. Yes.
These big things, these, I'm sure Marta would not agree with me on this, that the book could have been bigger. She doesn't agree with this. But the fact that it is not, that it is a sort of Hemingwayan condensation of things, there's nothing verbose in this. That's why it's a little book.
I think for its brevity, it's quite meaty in its philosophies. As I said, we were chatting a little bit before, that I have read this 3 times, and I had 3 different interpretations each time. First, I thought it was an existentialist novel.
It depends what time you read it.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess
in
so.
the morning or
Yes. That could be another concept, but anyways. So, I mean, I thought it was an existentialist novel. I thought it was someone who was worrying about who was trapped between the absurdity of life. But then it did change a little bit. I was saying this is a person who is now stuck between 2 or let's say 3 extremes. And then the third reading kind of cemented the second philosophy. But I thought it was more, I did see death in it, yes. It played a bigger role in reading number 3. So for me, that's a sign of a good book when there's different interpretations. In fact, and it's a little, we're just meandering a little bit. In your introduction, you did mention the Arundhati Roy book, The God of Small Things, as well, which is another book. It's a bit of a superficial comparison. There is another book which can be approached from many different angles and interpreted in different ways. For example, you could see it as a book about politics. You can see it was a book about filial love.
Yeah, but what I like in these books, The God of Little Things, which I mentioned, and also the other book, The Unbearable Lightness of Being,
by Kundera. Yeah.
All written by girls, by the way, I think, no? Yes.
Well, no, Milan's...
no, Kundera isn't, but the other one is.
Yeah.
But very like Nietzsche, they knock you the moment you finish them. And you put them down and you say, okay, what's next? Now I'm going to read this. But it keeps haunting you.
That's true.
That's Nietzsche to me. You cannot escape Nietzsche. Once you read Nietzsche, he never escapes. You keep recalling what he said. He goes so deep. And I consider these books like that. They help you bring up things.
They don't save you. They don't save you.
But no, but that's exactly, they don't. They don't save you, that is, they don't add another layer of falsity, of false salvation, because we're full of false salvations. This is the problem. Even in Christianity, even in Christian living, we keep coming up with false saviors, false salvations, false visions, I don't know what you call them. And this is the beauty of this text.
Do you agree with this as well, what we're discussing?
Yes, I agree. And I would like to add, for example, that the value I give to Amanda is that what happened to her is that she thinks with, using Nietzsche again, with the great reason. And the great reason is the one that starts here and finishes in your feet. So it includes all the body. And when Amanda falls in love, she knows it's wrong, she knows it's incorrect according to the average society values. She understands that maybe she shouldn't, to please the family, to please the neighbors, to please I don't know who. But she cannot lie to herself. She says, I feel this, I want this, what can I do? And that I like. Then the little reason, which is this one, has to adapt when the great reason talks. And that I appreciate a lot, because I think we normally try to silence these voices. And the fact that she's brave enough to go ahead, I like it.
Did you have an idea this could be a book that would be interpreted in many different ways? Did you feel that when you were writing? You're saying, okay, this one, you know, like as I was saying a few minutes ago?
No, actually, when I wrote it, not at all, because I was not there. But I have to say that now that the few people who have read it, it turns out very different things. I mean, one friend told me this book is about jealousy. I never thought it was about jealousy. Or this book is about the problems of the family. Then I talk about Mediterranean families, which can be very possessive. And this was a Maltese young man who told me, I can relate a lot with this type of families. So yes, I already realized that it can be interpreted in many, many ways.
There's no correct way of reading it. And that's the beauty of a book. Huh?
Definitely, definitely. I agree 100% there. Yes. Now, as a translator, because yesterday actually during the Salman Rushdie interview, he did say something about translations, that there's a bit lost, but yet a bit gained. Now, I'm putting it as a translation of a book. Well, it was more about migration. But do you agree with that, with this? Do you, or?
Yeah, I mean, originally, we weren't translated. I wasn't translated for this to be published. She wasn't writing for it to be published, and that's good, because when someone is writing to be published, one is censoring oneself a lot. She wrote not to be published. She wrote it just as a text. And so there were things which in fact, when we discussed later the translations, there were things I would have liked them to be a bit different. But she wouldn't move. She said, no, that's how it came out, that's how it will stay. Okay. And we fought a bit, then, as always, I give in. But again, it wasn't translated to be published. So I translated with the idea that it will be given to friends, our friends in Gozo especially.
Actually, with your translation, sometimes it helped to understand what I was saying myself. So in that sense, it's been even helpful.
I didn't want to translate literally. I wasn't translating the exact literal way. I wanted to be a good English book, text. And so I translated in that way, broadly respecting the rhythm of parts, because the rhythm changes. So if it's a quick rhythm, I want to keep the English not exactly word for word, but the rhythm has to be there. I had some experience with translating Plato from the original and Machiavelli from the original, and other Italian texts, the language, and some Spanish texts. And I always think that the rhythm, the broad style, the strokes of the brush have to be kept. So if it's Machiavelli being a bit obscure, I think you have to keep that, because it might have been intentional. And if Machiavelli or Plato is being playful, not intending to be taken too seriously here, you have to keep that in the translation, I think. But not translating word for word. So that's how the translation came. Then when I gave it to her back, I gave it to you in parts, I think, huh?
Yes.
She said, oh, I'm understanding the text, the original text better now.
But you try to kill a little bit the Spanish, because you say it was too much.
Yeah, but then she had these Spanish expressions, which are a pity to abandon, but they have to be abandoned, because especially when there's jokes involved, you cannot translate a joke. And sometimes where there's no joke, English would cry for a joke, or for a swear word, or where the Spanish is not. So I tried to find the balance between keeping the rhythm and the going of it, without translating word for word. I don't think a translator should translate word for word ever.
Yes.
Because it would be pedantic, it would be boring, and I don't think that it will be a service to the author.
In fact, yes, I remember, just on the point, last thing on translating, I remember reading an interview with Haruki Murakami's translator, Jay Rubin, and he says, I have to rewrite everything, but yet I still have to keep the energy of Murakami's characters and prose. So it's
Again,
what you just said
however,
struck, you know.
I say it's a pity that this is a translation. A pity that we cannot read the text in Spanish, though it probably would be published on. It is published on internet. You can never substitute the original, but read Dostoevsky in Russian, read Nietzsche in German. It's impossible. I will never do it. So I have to content with translations and knowing, as a translator of. As I said, I translated Plato from the original. That's Plato is my subject, and while translating, I compare translations of the same text in Italian, English, French, and Spanish, the languages I can follow, and you'll see that Plato is turned upside down in some translations which are authoritative, upside down, and not close to what he's saying. And I hope this is not done here. So the gist has to remain, but also in beautiful new language.
Do you have anything to add to this?
That I am very happy that you translated and the Horizons published the book.
Good, good. So maybe, hopefully a Spanish version will, in covers, will appear.
Well, we'll see. Maybe even a Catalan version. So.
Okay. Oh, yes, that's true. Okay.
The thing is that you've got a lot of young people today who read Spanish in Malta,
exactly.
But the general public won't be reading Spanish in the next 3 centuries.
Not in Malta, you mean?
Not in Malta, yes. So English is the closest we can get.
Maybe Maltese.
Well, why not?
Yeah,
but you
will,
will be able to follow.
No, fortunately no.
The next translation job.
Yeah.
So we can step aside from the book. How about as someone who is Spanish, then living in, not in Malta, in Gozo, our sister island? What's that like? I mean.
Well, when I first moved to Malta, it was like a constantly honeymoon. But then I woke up and I realized that I have to find a job, and it was really difficult. I didn't like the conditions. I didn't like anything all of a sudden. Then I realized that Europe is a joke because you have to become a resident. You need to show that you have savings, like 14,000, I think it was. So you wake up of this illusion, for example. And after you have overcome these practical problems, Gozo becomes a place of possibilities. For example, we open an art gallery with my partner, and Gozo is the most cosmopolitan place I could imagine, because the town I come from, near Barcelona, this never could happen. But in Gozo, it's amazing that we meet constantly an American, a German, a French, Italian, from all over
Bulgaria.
It's incredible. And then we have a little group of philosophy sharing, which Mark started, and we do activities regularly. So I find very much motivated being in Gozo.
That's good. And well, then you can say that helped you write the book then.
Very much, yes.
Motivation.
I'm sure if I wouldn't have moved to Gozo, that wouldn't have happened. Good. So I'm really grateful.
Good.
Gozo is really a beautiful part of our islands, which is still not untainted. It is being ruined, in my view, little by little, but not as ruined as Malta is. I hope we'll wake up before the end, the beginning of the end. because I love Gozo. My mother's family comes from Gozo, and but it's still a place where one can meet oneself in the beautiful people of Gozo, the beautiful foreigners that live there. In Malta, it's becoming ever more difficult. In Malta, you only meet concrete and cars and fumes, and especially in the cities, and it's becoming impossible to meet oneself or meet others, in fact. But in Gozo, it's still possible. Gozo is beautiful.
Well, do you have anything else in the pipeline? I know you just finished one, but do you have, I don't know, do you have any other ideas, just floating around?
No, my only idea is the same. What are we doing here?
Okay.
Yeah, well, what I suggest to Marta is that she's an expert of Nietzsche, and especially of the unpublished Nietzsche, because she's an expert of the texts that Nietzsche did not publish and were published posthumously. And I always encourage her to do something like that. I mean, Nietzsche is good sales, always. But we are familiar with the famous texts of Nietzsche, but not with his letters, for instance. Much of what she was saying now is not Nietzsche, published Nietzsche. Even in English, some texts of Nietzsche, letters, for instance, and texts he didn't publish, notes, for instance, are still not published in English. So I think, even if it's not a story, something academic maybe, or something in between, I think would be very much in her line. Nietzsche is never a liability, always an asset.
Okay.
That's what I think, but she needs pushing, I think.
I need Thomas to go to Sweden for another week.
Yeah, we'll send him away. For a month this time.
Okay, maybe, I don't know if it's a good idea, well, we'll see. I thought I'd conclude by just reading where the Ode to a Nightingale, where the title comes from. So we'll conclude on that.
Okay.
So, for many a time I have been half in love with easeful death, called him soft names in many amused rhyme, to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die, to seize upon the midnight with no pain. So that's it. So thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Marta. Thank you,
Thank you.
Father
Thank
Mark.
you.
Easeful death.